You know when you see a logo on a metal water bottle that just never seems to scratch off? Or a design on a wetsuit that stretches and bends without a single crack? Well, that's not just any old ink. That's some serious engineering. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible water-based ink technology from Chroma Life that lets us print on things we thought were, well, unprintable. So here's the deal. We're making products out of all these amazing modern materials. Sleek glass, tough metals, super flexible fabrics. The problem? Traditional inks just kind of slide right off or fade into nothing. This is what we call the unprintable problem. And believe me, it's a huge headache for designers and manufacturers. So that's the big question, right? How in the world do you get a print to stick, and I mean really last, on these super tricky surfaces? How do you make sure it doesn't just flake off or smudge the second it has to deal with real life, like heat or washing or just being used all the time? Well, the answer is all about engineering. It takes specialized, high-performance water-based inks that are built from the ground up for the very specific challenges of each material. And that is exactly where Chroma Life Technology comes in. All right, let's jump into our first major challenge, extreme environments. We're talking about prints that have to survive some seriously tough conditions. Things like crazy heat, high-pressure steam, or even harsh chemical cleaners. Just think about things like medical equipment or parts for cars and industry. So what do you do when your product has to go through something like, say, steam sterilization in a hospital, or it needs to be wiped down constantly with super strong alcohol cleaners? Yeah, a regular ink? It would be gone in a flash. You need an ink that's engineered to be tougher than the environment it's in. And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. Look, for those high heat, high steam environments, up to 121 degrees Celsius, you've got the G02A series. But check this out. This is what blows my mind. The G01 series on the right can be wiped with strong alcohol 50 to 100 times without fading. Seriously, think about medical tools getting cleaned over and over. That's the kind of durability we're talking about here. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, that steam-resistant G02A ink is perfect for stuff like labels on medical supplies that have to be sterilized. And that super tough G01 ink, that's the hero for logos on stainless steel tools, aluminum parts, and hard plastics that get a serious cleaning every single day. Okay, so we've tackled heat and chemicals. Now, let's get flexible. What happens when the surface itself is made to stretch and move? Like performance activewear, rubber parts, or athletic gear. The secret here is something called a high-elongation ink. Now, don't think of it like a layer of paint sitting on top of the fabric. It's more like it becomes part of the fabric. It's designed to stretch and flex right along with the material, which means the print never, ever cracks or peels away. It's amazing. And Chroma Life's answer to this challenge is the B80TY series. This ink is an absolute game changer for fabrics that are super stretchy and need to be washed a lot. We're talking about things like high-performance athletic apparel and even the neoprene used for wetsuits. That ink stays put, wash after wash, stretch after stretch. All right, so we've covered intense heat, harsh chemicals, and things that stretch like crazy. But the list of so-called unprintable materials is actually way bigger. So let's zoom out a bit and look at just how versatile these specialized inks really are. This slide is basically the ultimate cheat sheet. Just look at how specific this is. You're not just grabbing some general-purpose ink. No. If you're printing on glass, you need the B765G. If you're working with a water-repellent fabric, you need the B80TX. The big takeaway here is precision. The days of one-size-fits-all ink are totally over. It's all about matching the right engineered ink to the right material. Okay, so this brings us to the really practical part. Knowing these amazing solutions exist is one thing, but using them correctly to get those perfect results, that's another. So, how do you actually find and use the right ink for your project? It's really just a simple 4-step process. First, you've got to know your material and the challenges it's going to face. Second, you match it up with the right Chroma Life series using the info we just talked about. Third, and this part is absolutely crucial, you have to follow the specific instructions for that ink. And then, step 4, you get that perfect, durable, high-quality performance you were looking for. So here's the bottom line. The days of being limited by the surface you need to print on, they're over. The solution is to stop thinking about ink as just some generic liquid and start seeing it for what it is, a piece of precision engineering, just like the amazing material you're printing on. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. Now that these barriers are gone, now that you have the power to print durable, beautiful graphics on pretty much anything, what new doors does that open? What will you create? What possibilities does this unlock for your designs, your products, and your industry? So if you're ready to start printing on the unprintable and make your own projects a reality, you should definitely reach out to the experts at Chroma Life for some help. Thanks so much for watching.